Okay, when we're looking at restrictions on radicals, essentially what we want to look at is the radicand, so what's underneath the radical sign, and our restriction is that radicand can never be a negative number, right? So if I had -5 here, we wouldn't be able to take the square root of a negative number. So what we want to do when we're dealing with restrictions on radicals is you want to take the radicand, so 2x, and we're going to say that could always be greater than or equal to 0, right? Because I could take the square root of 0, so that's why I say the inequality could be equal to 0, and this radicand has to essentially be 0 or any number bigger. And then you would solve for x. So I would divide this side by 2 and this side by 2, and the restriction is x could be greater than or equal to 0. So x could be any number bigger than 0, and it would satisfy this restriction. So for example, if I said x is 2, which satisfies x is greater than or equal to 0, 2 times 2 is 4, we could take the square root of 4. Okay? If I took this inequality, or sorry, that radicand, so m minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. Let's solve for m. So add 4 to each side. And my restriction is m could be greater than or equal to any number bigger than 4. It could be 4 or any number bigger than 4. And again, when we were in class for this, I would have said, okay, so if we picked 4, 4 minus 4 is 0, the square root of 0 is 0. So that works. If, let's say, I picked 8, which is greater than 4, 8 minus 4 is 4, and we could take the square root of 4. So the restriction is m is greater than or equal to 4. This one here, we always take the radicand, so 6 minus a is greater than or equal to 0. And with inequalities, you always want your variable on the left-hand side. So you wouldn't want to add a and add a. What you would do is you would keep your negative a where it is. We would subtract the 6. And we would get negative a is greater than or equal to negative 6. And then we would divide both sides by -1. And those negatives would cancel. And we would get a is, oh, sorry, I almost made a mistake. When you divide both sides by a negative number, this inequality sign switches. So now my restriction is a is less than or equal to 6. So a could be any number that's 6 or less than 6. And I'll show you where the restriction wouldn't work. Let's say I picked 8. 8 does not follow this a is less than or equal to 6. If I pick 8, and I did 6 minus 8, that would be the square root of -2. We know we can't do that, right? However, if I pick any number less than 6, so let's say I picked -5, right? That's less than 6. And I put it under my inequality sign. So 6 minus, if a is -5, that gives me the square root of 11, and that works. Okay, I just want to quickly show you this one because I forget if we wrote this exam in class, but if we would have, this was one of the questions on the exam. So state the restriction and interpret the meaning. So again, this radicand must be greater than or equal to 0. And we could have done this actually a couple of different ways. We could have distributed this 3 in. You could have done that. Or some students, another way that we could have done this is I could just divide this side by 3 and divide this side by 3. We get the same answer at the end. And then I would get 1 minus 2x greater than or equal to 0. From here, what would I get? Subtract 1 from both sides. -2x is greater than or equal to -1. Divide both sides by -2. And I would get x is less than or equal to, so flip your inequality sign, 1/2. So if you just pick again for x, any number less than 1/2, and if you plugged it into the original, you would get a positive radicand, or you would get 0, and it would work. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and let me know if you have any other questions with that.